Hey guys, welcome back to Buzzer2Buzzer. Alright guys, for the past couple of days, the playoffs have kept on going on. We have the final matchup set for the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. However, to take a step back real quick and looking at the games which led us here. Firstly, talking about the games which just happened a couple nights ago between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets. Guys, we saw it go to a 7-game series in which it was a Game 7 unlike any other. The game went into overtime, a performance we saw from both teams going out till the last moment in which the Milwaukee Bucks edged out, winning the game, advancing to their second Eastern Conference Finals in the past 3 years. Now, guys, in the game, we saw that the Brooklyn Nets, they were short man. Kevin Durant was literally leading the way, playing a staggering 53 minutes, dropping 40 points. He did all that he could, a shoe size away, right, from winning the game before it went to OT. But that was not enough. We saw Milwaukee's Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton edge it out for the team. Our thought on the Bucks advancing and the effort put up by the Brooklyn Nets.
I've been seeing all over, like after the Bucks won, like Twitter, Instagram, all over social media. Everyone's clowning the Nets, saying the 3 superstars weren't enough, and saying like things like the Nets, they let fans down, let the organization, let everyone down because they were clearly like the number one, like they were. What am I trying to say? Yeah, they were clearly the front runners, I think, to win the chip this year with their stacked lineup, a three-headed monster. We've talked about this in the past. But, the injuries really killed them. We saw the first 2 games. When they had a healthy 3-star James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant roster, the Nets absolutely destroyed the Bucks, both those first 2 games. And injuries happen. It's part of the game. You can't really do anything about that. The Bucks fought back. Obviously, Giannis, amazing performance throughout the whole series. Chris Middleton, too, great performance. Drew Holiday really stepped up. And as far as Game 7, you can't really say a lot about KD. I mean, the man put up 48 points. That shot to get them to overtime, that was clutch. Obviously, people are talking about the last shot where he could have won the game, but he airballed. That was a really difficult shot. I still don't blame him for that. A lot of players like Joe Harris, who should be like an automatic three-point shooter, best three-point shooter on that team in terms of percentage. He wasn't making a lot of shots in the fourth quarter and when it really mattered. So I can't really blame Kevin Durant, but give credit to the Bucks because Giannis and Chris Middleton were playing amazing.
I'll be kind of covered it on the Nuts, and I completely agree. KD did whatever he could. The rest of it really came down to his teammates that couldn't be there, and we were LeBron in the same situation, so it's only fair that KD gets the same treatment on social media. LeBron, when he puts out 50 and his teammates do nothing, he gets the same. So it's only fair. It goes both ways for them. When you're the best player on the planet. But looking at the Bucks, Giannis, Mr. Run and Jump, he put up 50, but it came down to the end of the day. If Chris Middleton didn't play good, they weren't going to win that game, and Chris Middleton came through. They won that game because he had an amazing board. Let's not slide Giannis anyway, but we know he was going to come out and play. It's a Game 7. Your star player is going to be there. It's that supporting cast, and Bucks supporting cast was better, and that's why they won the game and the series.
Definitely. We saw it till that last play. I think that last play where we had Giannis and KD was guarding him. Giannis went into the paint, hit that paint shot over KD. I think that was the statement play of Giannis's so far postseason career because we saw throughout the whole series Giannis was not really guarding KD. Got to give credit also to the Bucks, PJ Tucker, for putting up a heck of a defense on Kevin Durant. For sure, KD dropped 48 and then had a stellar Game 7, but still give credit because he had him in clamps for a good portion and made him earn every single bucket. And speaking of the Nets, it goes to show you that the injuries, what we talked about earlier, this whole season, it's sort of messed up these playoffs. If you're telling me that if KD, Kyrie, James Harden were there, their defense, regardless of whatever the state of that is, their offense, it could not have been stopped. And now seeing Giannis and these guys playing all-around basketball, despite Giannis taking who knows how long at the free throw line, especially if these guys go back to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they'll be meeting the opponent of the Hawks. Alrighty, guys, talking about the Atlanta Hawks, they are also advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals, just recently beating out the Philadelphia 76ers in a clinching Game 7. Now, guys, we saw a Game 7 performance by the Hawks, an all-around team performance, you could say, being led out, and also more important attention being given to the 76ers falling down again. Heartbreak we've seen year after year. Last year, guys, a first-round exit. 2 years before that, the infamous Kawhi Leonard shot in Toronto. And now this year, going out in heartbreaking fashion, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, we saw what went down. Guys, our thoughts on the Hawks advancing and the state of the 76ers.
Yesterday we saw a heist surface. $140 million heist by Ben Simmons of the Philadelphia 76ers. This plot began a year or so back when he signed that extension, and now it's being fully exposed. He secured the money, the heist is over, and it's sad to say, what the hell happened? Like, this guy, he's the all-star. How is he an all-star without shooting? You got to score. You don't give up that layup, that dunk at the end of the game. You got to make plays for your team and not take away. Where was he? Where was your second-best player on that team last minute of the game? On the bench. Doc Rivers had found that he was taking away from that team so much, he had to put their second-best player, an all-star, on the bench. This is definitely the end of Ben Simmons' run in Philly. Joel Embiid called him out in his post-game conference. I could see him getting traded or even, being sent to China to play for the Guangdong Tigers. I don't know what happens for him, but this is the end of his run in Philly.
I think Harsh covered most of the Ben Simmons slander that we're going to talk about. But on the other side, you got to give credit to the Hawks. If you're going to tell me a year ago that the Atlanta Hawks were going to play in the Eastern Conference Finals and Trae Young was going to lead that team, I wouldn't believe you. I would say Trae Young's way too young to lead a team like that. I think that he's a star. He's going to be a superstar in a couple of years, but he's playing insane right now, out of his mind for a player that young. And I think about Trae Young too. I didn't really realize this before. I feel like my man's been hated on his whole career. In college, in high school and college, people were calling him overrated, saying he wouldn't, his game wouldn't translate well to the league. Obviously, he's proving all the haters wrong, and you got to give him some respect. Game 7, he had an all right performance. I think the star of that Game 7 for the Hawks was Kevin Huerter.
Yep.
Is that his name?
Huerter.
Yeah. Huerter. I'll say Huerter. But I think the star of that show for the Hawks for Game 7 was Kevin Huerter, putting up 27 points. He really stepped up, a player that I wouldn't really expect to do that well. But got to give credit to the Hawks. We're going to see how they do against the Bucks this round, but they have proven a lot of people wrong for sure.
I'd like to say one thing too. We say the Atlanta Hawks are led by Trae Young. I wouldn't even say he's the leader. I think this is one of those five-headed monster type teams that we saw with the Atlanta Hawks a few years back. Trae Young, he didn't play particularly well, but the spark they have, the team chemistry they have on the floor, when you're seeing these guys play together, it's like watching seasoned veterans who've played 8-9 years together. They know where everyone's going to be. They know the play so well. And Doc Rivers got out-coached. It's not this time. Paul George called him out last year now for the way he was misusing. Is Doc Rivers to partially blame now in this situation, not misusing his players? Was the 2008 Celtics run a fluke where he sort of had the best players in that situation? He really hasn't produced much of substance. He had one of the best teams in the Clippers, and they failed to make it out of the second round. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, 2 top 5, top 10 players at the time, failed to make it out of the second round. So, he's really questioning Doc Rivers' coaching ability by putting his players in the best situation as well.
Exactly, Harsh. Hit the nail on the head. We talked about a couple months ago when Doc Rivers was fired from the Los Angeles Clippers and went to the Philadelphia 76ers. He's blown 2-3-1 leads in these playoffs. 2008, a lot of people a lot of respect for Doc Rivers, obviously, but 2008, it was a while back, 13 years back now looking. In the past couple of years, in the past 10 years, whether it be in Lob City and now in Philadelphia, it's not been the brightest for his career. And, in the post-game conference, talking more about the players now, a reporter asked, do you think, to Doc Rivers, is Ben Simmons ready to be a championship-level point guard? And he said he does not have the answer. It shows you the distrust between the players and the coaching staff. And honestly, it's justified. Ben Simmons, 5 points. No points in 4 out of these 7 games. No points in the fourth quarter when it really matters. You're giving everything is being put on Joel Embiid's shoulders. I mean, Joel Embiid, he's been a heck of a star. He was in the MVP conversation, if not number 1, number 2, even though Nikola Jokic ended up taking it home. Joel Embiid is being given too much workload in the Philadelphia 76ers. I honestly think that even though the process has been attempted to try with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid combo, it's time for Joel Embiid to start looking elsewhere because in Philadelphia, he's not about to have success. He will not win a ring with the Sixers organization because they cannot figure out their point guard issue. Ben Simmons is not the way to go, and it's unfortunate. Even though he's number 1 pick, last year signed a mega harsh. You were talking about that $160 million deal. These next 4 years will be long. and tiring for the 76ers organization. But talking about
there is one solution. There is one solution. A lot has to break for their way, and it's a team that's looking, to maybe blow it all up. And I would say the Portland Trailblazers. You have to package a lot of picks. Ben Simmons, even some young players, over for Damian Lillard, who, the Portland Trailblazers, there have been rumors that they're looking into a complete blow-up, a complete rebuild. We know Dame is very loyal to Portland. He said he'd rather never win a ring there than win a ring elsewhere. So we know how loyal Dame is. It's time for Portland as a franchise to sort of rebuild completely like OKC's doing. I think, Dame and Joel might be the perfect combo to threaten the Eastern Conference.
I just want to address something too. We're talking about Ben Simmons not making a single point in the fourth quarter, 4 out of 7 games. Forget him making a point. He didn't even attempt a field goal in the fourth quarter in 4 out of the 7 games. I was looking at some article. I was watching some videos about people explaining Ben Simmons' game. Oh, why is he performing so bad in the playoffs? I think a certain part of it is that he just doesn't have a lot of confidence in his ability. Normally his offensive skills are a bit limited, and then when you're in such a high pressure situation like the playoffs, I feel like he's just a pass first player right now. Obviously, we saw that the wide open layup. I think that's a confidence thing right there. He didn't want to make that shot. He didn't want to risk missing that shot. In front of all those fans, people booing him even more. So I think maybe like. For now, you gotta see the options for trading Ben Simmons, because I don't know if the Sixers can go far, but there's a chance if he improves his offensive skill set, he can be a much better player. But for now, he just has to work on that.
Well, now we await a good Eastern Conference Finals coming up between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. Guys, in 2016, the Atlanta Hawks went a 60-win team. We all remember what happened. LeBron James-led Cleveland Cavaliers ended up sweeping that 60-win team. But let me get you guys' predictions as we are heading up for this upcoming series. Hawks led by Trae Young, and like Archie said, a 5-man team, a lot of equal opportunity against Giannis-led Bucks. Our thoughts and who will win?
I think it's come down to a few things, right? We have the givens. Clint Capella has been playing amazing this postseason. His defensive presence has been close to what we saw last year with Bam Adebayo, maybe even a little bit better on the stat sheet. Young, if he has an off night, he has John Collins and Kevin Huerter come up. DeAndre Hunter should be coming off his injury. He's a good spark off the bench. And so we know they have that established side. For the Bucks, it's simple. Guys will play well, or at least decent. Chris Middleton, he's a 50-50, and Drew Holiday's more of a 25-75. So if they can even get Chris Middleton to be firing on all cylinders, they're going to win that game. But the question is, how many of those is going to show up? In one of the games that the Bucks won against the Nets, he didn't show up. It's just the Nets had everyone injured. KD was still adjusting to that single player, having no Harden. It was that game 6, So looking at this Hawks team, I think this Hawks team is ready. They know that they have all the odds stacked against them. They're not afraid of anything. So I got to go with Hawks in 7. I think Chris Middleton shows up 3 times. Maybe if Drew Holiday will surprise in game 7, he might go Hawks in 7.
We've been saying, you've been saying too, Horst. Like the Hawks, obviously the Trae Young's the best player on that team, but I don't really think he's they don't completely depend on Trae Young. He can have a mediocre game and the Hawks can still pull out a win with the other players playing well. So, but for the Bucks, I think Giannis is gonna have a great game every single game. Looking at the Nets series and their defense too, obviously he's one of the top 5 best players in the world right now. So the Bucks just need to have Giannis and Chris Middleton doing well, like you said. But I think Drew Holiday, he's been a bit inconsistent in the last playoffs series. Obviously, he's an elite defender, but his offensive skills are somewhat mediocre sometimes, and they can't be that. They have to be consistently good against the Hawks because the Hawks are going to put on a show every single game. So I just think there's a lot more things that need to go right for the Bucks. And the Hawks just seem to be a bit more consistent. So I'm also going to have to go with the Hawks in 7.
Wow.
Speaking of Holiday before you speak of Holiday, that solid defender, that's what we saw with Ben Simmons last series. He is that top 5 defender in the league, but he didn't have the offense. And when you don't have the offense, we see what happened last series. That's another good reason.
I think Drew Holiday is a bit better with offensive skill set.
He's a bit better, but even then, a bit better isn't enough to beat the Hawks. Ben Simmons is a bit better of a defender too. So Trae Young's going to get more points, get more shots too. And when you're guarding him, all these guys get more. It goes both ways, sort of a balance. But anyway,
Drew Holiday puts around 10, 20 points a game. I think that's significantly better than Ben Simmons.
Well, if there's one thing which would make me want to go towards the Hawks is really their coaching. Nate McMillan, the way he's been able to use rotations and get this team functioning with the Atlanta Hawks has been incredible. And speaking of rotations, I think that he's truly a better coach than Mike Budenholzer. But looking at pure size and talent, the effectiveness which we've seen of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton, that combo really, both players coming out and shining throughout these playoffs. I'm going to have to go with the Milwaukee Bucks winning in a 7-game series. Both these teams, they both know what it takes to win games. Both coming off a 7-game series previously. They're both tired. Fatigue will be there, but I honestly do expect that this will go to a 7-game series where the Bucks will be edging out Giannis Antetokounmpo. He knows what it feels like to go down. They were up 2-0 2019. We all know what happened with the Raptors. I think this is going to be the time where he's got his game face on, ready to advance. And I think that Jrue Holiday will be stepping up on both ends of the floor. And they got a squad. Brook Lopez also being there. And I can see this being a 7-game series with the Bucks will advance.
Yeah, there's really there's no clear-cut answer here. Both teams are great right now, and both teams have surprised a lot of people. Last series they were down in 0-2. Obviously, the Nets have some injuries, but the Bucks are really good right now. Hawks too. Again, a lot of people are doubting Trae Young, so we'll see how he plays. But I think it's going to be a great series.
All right, guys, what are our thoughts on the eastern part of these playoffs? Keep on developing. A lot of great games which you've seen the past couple of days going down. And as always, guys, be sure to like button, subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on these 2 7-game series and who do you have winning in these Eastern Conference Finals. A lot of good NBA basketball to come about. We'll be covering it. You guys take care. See you guys on the next one.